remembers worshiping in here years ago? Of course, this was the church building before the one across the street. That's right. Raise your hand. Old timers, be proud. Right? Some of you not that old. You were little. But you remember. We are really blessed to have activity buildings, is what we refer to this as. But you are worship hall west. Now, just across the street, we're blessed to have another place that we can relatively quickly get in order. And I have to brag on our sound guys. They have been hustling and you know, as you might imagine, hooking things up in an application like this, it should go a certain way, and it should all work, and then it doesn't. And so Corey and Diane out here till about 3:30 in the morning today, getting this ready for us. So to those at home, glad you're watching our sound production. Our sound guys tell me that your quality at home is not as good as you're used to. You've been a little spoiled. But they said bear with them. They're doing the best they can and going to be working on improving that. So anyway, we have 79 devices watching from home. Had 49 at the 8:30 service. And however many we have here, looks like about 285. And for those visiting with us today, thank you for coming. We're glad that you're here, glad that you're with us. We always want you to come, and you know, I think I'm in a group that agrees with me. If we have to meet out in the middle of a field, wherever we meet, we're going to meet, right? We're going to meet. We're going to worship God. First day, we're going to do it every week, and so we're blessed to do so. So I want to tell you just real quick, because we're trying to kind of adjust on the fly and do the best we can with what we provide you. So the Ziploc bags, I know some of you are wondering what in the world we're doing with Ziploc bags. So that is for, this is Corona stuff. We're bobbing and weaving as Corona keeps coming at us. But after you take your cup, so you don't have to worry about the grape juice. I know it's just a drop, but spilling on furniture or the carpet or a white chair or what have you, you can zip that up, seal it up in your Ziploc bag. Okay? So that's what that is. Simple. Okay, so we're in a series on this topic of is God real? And the first sermon, just a quick recap. You know, is God real? The question we asked was, can you prove that God exists? And the short answer to that is no. And that's why it's called faith. And God, incidentally, God has made it that way. He has kept himself from being so able for us to see him or touch him, that kind of thing. And so we have faith in him, and that's our choice. However, you cannot prove God does not exist. That cannot be proven either. So really, the Christian and the atheist have one thing in common. They both have faith. And how in the world did we get here? They have faith. So last week's sermon was about some problems that exist within this position of being an atheist or taking that position where I don't believe there is God. There's some problems with that. One, there's this idea of evolution. In the fossil record, we're missing, there's the absence of what's called transitional species. In other words, if things evolve from one form to another and higher, well, where is all the transitional fossil record? And so that's a problem. Another is the mathematical odds. If you talk to the mathematician in the science department and ask them what are the odds that our universe happened by accident, our universe is so precise the odds are ridiculous. And one mathematician put it this way: it's like winning the lottery every day, day after day, for as many days as the universe has existed. In other words, it is an astronomical number that we could be here by chance. And then also the fact that scientists have yet to create life. They cannot take non-living things and make it start. They cannot start the engine. You ever try to start a mower that won't start? You know, spark plug bad or something. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I'm yanking on this chain. It won't start. Scientists cannot do that. They cannot start the engine of life. And Scripture talks about that God breathed into Adam's nostrils the breath of life. God started it. God creates life. So today's sermon is on this topic of without a creator, how do you explain? So we kind of go further into some of these problems with the idea that there's not a creator. And we've talked about this one some, the order of our universe. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at the human body and the design and order of the human body. By the way, cameras, technology has advanced so much. Cameras are so good that autofocus, the ability of we're now to the point where most of you don't take a traditional camera to your kid's event to record it, to take photo or video. You don't. You take this. Some folks take the big old iPad. You got the big old iPad, you hold it up, and you're blocking everyone's view. Careful about that. Right? Technology. However, the autofocus on the best camera that exists today is nowhere near what the human eye can do.
That's right.
It's amazing. The human eye can hit a curveball. Right? I mean, I can't do it, but people can do it because they can see, and they can see that ball and where it's in its trajectory, and they can hit that ball. That's the human eye does that. Anyway, design. So how do you explain design? In Psalm 19 verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims His handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge." You know, who's proclaiming God's existence? Well, creation does, for starters. And it has every day that we've been in existence. Here's a big one. How do you explain morality? And incidentally, this does not exist in the animal kingdom. So this is just kind of right and wrong. The word ethics is in this idea, morality, right and wrong. In the animal kingdom, if the lion wants to kill the zebra, the lion kills the zebra, right? The lion's hungry. The animal kingdom doesn't stop and say, you know, should I really be doing this? Is this right? You know, is this fair? Right? Because I'm faster than the zebra, or I'm stronger. Is this really okay? We don't think about that. But there's this thing called ethics. And ethics is not about what's legal. That's a different topic. Ethics is a dilemma. Should I do this or not? Because, well, I can legally do it. I can do it and get away with it. I can do it and there are no consequences. But is it ethically right? And it kind of amazes me that in our universities, which are so liberal, in the degree program, almost every degree program, there's some class or some portion of a class that they stop and talk about ethics. Morality. That's what it is. It's right and wrong. Yes, it may be pertaining to business or maybe pertaining to whatever career field we're talking about, but it's still the idea of I can do this legally, but should I do it? Right? And that's God. God put that in mankind. Mankind doesn't evolve and then get to a point where we say, you know, maybe we shouldn't kill, you know, maybe I shouldn't take this for food. Evolution is the idea of the survival of the fittest. So ethics kind of comes into conflict with the idea that there's no God. So here's a verse that we look at and you have from a believer's point of view, which this is Paul writing to the Galatians. He says, "Walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, the desires of the Spirit against the flesh." To keep you from doing things you want to do. So the desires of the flesh, that's the lion and the zebra. And we all have that. We have that just animalistic, if I'm hungry, I want to eat. If I'm cold, I want clothes on. It's just whatever makes me feel good, desires and urges. But then we also have this part of us, which this verse talks about, the Spirit. And this spiritual part of me, who wants to do right, knows what is right. That moral compass that says I should make this right choice, but I'm tempted to make this wrong choice. So we have this conflict. Why do we have that if there's no God? Incidentally, gang members have this. They have a different moral compass. I mean, we would disagree on what's right and wrong, but they still have a moral morality that they agree upon, things that they do or don't do, or kind of rules they follow. within that game. Prisoners have it. Prisoners don't agree about certain crimes or punishments, whatever, but prisoners also, they do still have an agreement about, and it might be, harming women or children or elderly or whatever. So prisoners have they have ethics, they have morality, and they are made in God's image. Genesis 1:27 says we're made in God's image. So to the atheist, I would ask this question: how is it that I am not a murderer when I kill a spider? Which I do. If I see a spider, how about the common house fly? So flies don't really bother me until they bother me. If they're not bothering me, I'm not going to get up and go get the fly swatter and chase it down. But if it gets to bugging me, then there's a switch that flips, and I'm killing the spider. I will take a long time to do it. I'll hunt him, track him. He'll get tired. He has to land sometimes. I'll get him, right? You've done that. So when I kill a fly, let's go a little higher. Kill a mouse with a mouse trap. Right? You hear that trap go off? Hopefully we got one. Sometimes the mice get my peanut butter and get away. I don't know how to do that. I'll kill a snake if I can. Y'all know, if you know me, you know I'm terrified of snakes. They send off every panic button within me. Okay? Kind of like, by the way, there's a reason I'm not up here. I'll tell you why. This does not look good up here. This is kind of spooky to the public speaker. And some of you, the idea of what that looks like, you have an idea in your mind that if I were to try to hand some of you the mic, that old heart starts beating, get away from me. Anyway, that's not with snakes. I will kill snakes. I have killed snakes. I was over at Curtis's and Stephanie's yesterday. My daughters, I don't know where they got this or who they're from, but everyone then likes snakes. And Curtis has this python. Curtis has this python. Some of you been in class with Curtis. Camo is the name. Camo. It looks like camo. It looks like it could be in the leaves where I can't see it. And but Abby was holding. Is it a heater or she? We don't know. Abby was holding it. See how snakes are? Abby was holding it. Sydney will hold it. Liz will hold it. I will not get in the room with it. I was in the hallway watching it. So to the atheist, I would say, what's the difference between me killing a snake and a person? If we've evolved, who are we as humans? Yes, we're the highest in the evolution chain, but who are we to say that it's okay for us to kill the little guys, but if we kill one of our own, well, that's murder. So you get these ideas of morality. It becomes, very complicated, and in the end, we should not have a moral compass if we've just evolved. How do you explain selfless love? This is sacrifice. I'll give you an example. My father, when he and my aunt moved my grandmother, who had dementia, Alzheimer's, could not live on her own. When they moved her to a facility to live, they committed to visiting her every day. They would take turns. Dad would go 3 days a week. So there would be one day I think they didn't go, but they would cover the other days. And Dad would drive and see her. Well, then her mind went to the point that when he would see her, she, kind of recognized him, but kind of didn't. And in the last few years, he would go, and she did not acknowledge that anyone's in the room. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know he was there. Does that make sense? He still went every other day, 3 days a week, till she died. Selfless love. So evolution might say certain aspects of love that we've evolved to the point that we love each other, we have families, we have groups, we have, how packed animals do, so we have our packs. that there's a group, there's a survival benefit to being in a group. And so, well, that's why we love each other, because it's, we live, it's better for us. But how do you explain selfless love, where there's no benefit? There's no advantage to the person doing it. They're not doing it for themselves. It's selfless. And I would explain it like this. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. My explanation is that came from our Creator. We're made in the image of God, and God put that in us. How do you explain conscious thought and self-awareness? This one may seem odd to you, but to the deep thinkers and the scientists, when they study the body, and they study the brain and the mind, they can explain a lot of things. However, the brain, our doctors and scientists know really there's so much they don't understand about the brain and how it works. Okay? But I want to share this quote with you, and this was published in TheGuardian.com, January 2015. And it says, one spring morning in Tucson, Arizona, in 1994, an unknown philosopher named David Chalmers got up to give a talk on consciousness, by which he meant the feeling of being inside your head, looking out, or to use the kind of language that might give a neuroscientist an aneurysm, having a soul. Though he didn't realize it at the time, the young Australian academic was about to ignite a war between philosophers and scientists by drawing attention to a central mystery of human life, perhaps the central mystery of human life, and revealing how embarrassingly far they were from solving it. Basically, it's the idea that we have self-awareness. We understand ourselves, and we have thoughts in our minds of who we are, who other people are. So this is what separates us from the animal kingdom, one of the things. Just conscious thought. So doctors can explain how a lot of the brain works, and what does this, and this makes your body do that, and makes it feel pain, or what have you, or what emotion. But self-awareness and conscious thought is a mystery to deep thinkers. They have a hard time explaining what it is, why is it we have it, and it doesn't fit with evolution. Okay? And then let's move to this one. How about memory? Memory. Do you remember pre-corona? Remember what that was like? Coming to church and shake hands, hug, worship without a mask, right? You remember pre-corona? Just go where you want. You want to go to the movies? Just go to the movies. We have a memory of things in the past. I remember so the last decade. You have memories of the last decade? A little over a year ago, this baby boy was born, this grandboy. And I remember that day Liz was in labor, so we rushed to the hospital, and it looks like this is gonna happen, so let's get the party set up. And so the family's all there, we've got all our supplies, and we're ready to party with this new life. And doesn't happen for a while. He didn't come till middle of the night. So we all have to go home. And then we wake up, and he's here. He's here. And so we go up and see him. Memories. Right? I remember when Abby was born, and that day before she was born, Stephanie was having contractions, and we went to Mexicali, which one of my favorite restaurants, Mexicali. And one of the reasons we went there is she wants some spicy food. Why? Mothers know why. They say spicy food will help that baby come along. And so, ready to have this baby. So we did that, and we were writing down contraction times on, remember when they had menus and crayons, and you write with crayons on the menu, and then somebody else could use those same crayons? Remember that? Anyway, we did that. And I remember when Sydney was born, and we rushed to the hospital, Stephanie's first child, so we think, well, this is going to be a while. So we're not in a big hurry. But then the contractions started coming along quicker and quicker. We go to the hospital. I'm about to panic because we're in the hospital room. We're kind of there and kind of set up, but no one in there. We need some nurses, we need some doctors, and tractions are coming, and I haven't hit the panic button, but my hand's on it. And the nurse, she comes in, I'll never forget, she comes in, she says, "So we're having a baby." You know, all nonchalant. I'm thinking, "No, we're not having a baby, we're having a baby, we need help." And anyway, they took 2 hours later, we had a baby. So that's fairly quick for time to be at the hospital. When Liz was born, 1:35 p.m., Wednesday, August 23rd, 6 pounds, 4 ounces. When we left the hospital, Kim Rester is the first person we saw. Little Elizabeth. Memories. Isn't it amazing how the mind remembers things? When you get older, you can't remember as well, but in some ways you can remember distant memories better. How is that, right? At least you can remember something. So, I don't know your name, but you still have some memories. How does that happen with evolution? It doesn't make sense. Explain this to me. Instinct with things like migratory, even just basic migratory songbirds will travel thousands of miles to and from their wintering grounds. Sometimes with a mortality rate of 50%, but they oftentimes will return to the same exact area. Repeated. How does that happen? How do things happen in the animal kingdom? How does instinct exist without a creator? And then I want to share one more thought with you. And this thought, this comes from, this is from Steve, Mr. Memory himself. He comes to my office as he does regularly because he's overseeing things on the building and grounds. And he'll come in lots of times and say all kinds of things. And you know, some more or less valuable, but one day he says this, and I thought, you know what, you might have something. And the longer I thought about it, the more profound I thought it was. And here's the thought. Everything that exists on earth came out of the ground. So you look at the picture of New York City skyline, everything you see there came out of this earth. Came out of the ground. Everything, it had to be processed, had to be manipulated, had to be, you know, changed, modified, developed. Of course, it was developed with machines that also came out of the ground. The car that you drive, everything in it came out of the ground, including the fuel. We have technology. We know how to make something spark. We know how to, create an engine that runs and that propels. Tires, seats, fabric, plastic, glass, everything in that car. And you drove a car here today. Most all of our cars, your car will go 120 miles an hour down the highway if you were to go that fast, and relatively safely, if you think about it. I'm not saying it's safe to do that. I'm just saying it's not about to explode at that speed, right? Some of you can testify to it. I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not even going to say it. Y'all know what I'm thinking of. But anyway, let the record show I did not name the name. All of that came out of the ground. The space shuttle came out of the ground. Every bit of it. Your home that you live in came out of the ground. And then sometimes I stop and I think about the fact that we need building materials as humans. We need to build, a home is an important thing for you to have, a structure that's safe for you, shelter, right? You need to build a shelter. So we need materials to build a shelter. And so let's just think about an earth stripped of everything, an earth that's bare, and God hasn't given it anything. But basically, just a simple tree. A tree provides us a material that is strong, yet it's also flexible, yet it's also able to be, you can drill a hole in it, you can cut it, so it's soft enough to modify it, and yet it's strong enough, and yet it's flexible, and it is plentiful, it reproduces, it's somewhat waterproof, right? Water resistant, weather resistant. The tree we take for granted, but look at what a blessing it is to it, and they keep reproducing. And trees have since the beginning of time, and not because of man, because of God, right? Think about your computer, your smartphone. Every part of this came out of the ground. It amazes me. This building, the clothes you wear. Anyway, that may not be a profound thought to you, but to Steve and I, it was. And I wanted to share it with you, and I think it just speaks to God's wisdom in providing for us. I want to hit on, I know I'm behind time, I always am. Where's my time here? Where's my time? I know some of y'all know exactly, you can tell. Wow. Okay, worse than I thought. Radiometric and carbon-14 dating. I'll hit on these. I'll hit on 4 things real quick that an atheist would say, well, what about this? So they date fossils and rocks and different things with radiometric carbon-14 dating. Those 2 different types. But both of them have some issues that the Christian scientist understands, and so it doesn't destroy the idea that the Earth may be only 6,000 years old, which many Christian scientists still believe in a young Earth. That's a young Earth, give or take 6,000, maybe 8,000. So 3 things that happens with these type datings. One is they make assumptions on what was in that product to begin with. Exactly what was in the rock or the fossil to begin with. What was its decay rate? Was it a steady decay rate? And then was it contaminated? So there's assumptions that it was not contaminated, that the decay rate was this, and here's how much was in it at the beginning, which they claim millions of years ago. Have no way of knowing. There are rocks from recent volcanoes like Mount St. Helens that we know exactly how old they are, and yet with these methods they will show a reading of multiple million years old, and we know that's about 40 years old. So there are issues with those dating methods. Have you ever heard this idea that humans and chimps have a genome 98% similar? You ever heard that? A couple problems with this. One is there is an assumption in this study. Basically, the study starts by taking the human, by assuming that these 2 evolved from the same creature, and so some of the way the study is conducted is with that assumption that, well, so we can map out some of this because we know it came or is similar to human. But further studies on this comparison show that number is actually more like 85% similar. Here's what I would say to the idea that if our genome is similar to a chimp, it doesn't affect my belief in God. Here's why. A chimp has an opposable thumb, correct? Like we do. What a chimp cannot do and has not done is what a 10-year-old boy would do. Not to be sexist, a 10-year-old girl. Take some 8 or 10-year-olds, tell them to go play in the woods, and before long they will have a fort built. Right? They'll build a fort, build a structure. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be educated to build something. You do have to have what humans have, and chimps don't have it. Chimps don't build, although they could. Does that make sense? Anyway, there's a vast difference between us and chimps and the animal kingdom. All right, 2 more things. Where did God come from? God is eternal. So this question is not, it is a difficult one to answer, but it should not trouble you. The short answer is we don't know. Scripture says God is eternal. But the fact that, so here's the reality, either we evolved from matter that existed and always has existed, in other words, matter is eternal, or matter came from nothing. Something from nothing. Have you ever seen something come from nothing? No, you've never seen it. A scientist has never seen it. Something has never come from nothing in our observance and study of the world. So either matter is eternal or God is eternal. I put my faith in a higher power being eternal. Now the atheist would say, well, Elliot, how is it you cannot explain how God is eternal? And my answer would be, if I could explain how the Creator is, then I wouldn't really be the creator. It should not surprise us that the created cannot explain all the ways of the Creator. Make sense? All right, lastly, human suffering. Sometimes this one is put forth to say, well, God can't be a loving God because look at all the human suffering that exists. And I will share 3 quick things with you. One is, James 1:13 says, let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God. And that passage tells us that when we sin, it's because we choose to sin. No one makes you sin. So if I want to go out and kill another person, that will cause a lot of suffering to their family, right? And who's at fault? I am, not God. Because God gave us the choice to choose right or choose wrong. Secondly, some of our suffering is because of Satan. And we have a whole book of the Bible dedicated to this, the book of Job. Sometimes God allows Satan to provide some hardship on us. Reason being, our life is an opportunity for us to choose God or not choose God. That's why we're here, to make a choice. And then thirdly, sometimes suffering is not always bad. Some of you have been through hardships. They've been difficult. And if I were to say, if you could go back, and would you want to go back and not have this hardship? Many Christians would say, I would not change a thing. Because I've grown closer to God. I've grown closer to my family. I have a deeper, faith. I have a deeper understanding of this, that, and the other. And so suffering is not always bad. Sometimes it is very beneficial to us. We're going to close and sing a song, Our God is Alive. We've sang this a week or two here. Our God is Alive. It's a good song to end on. My question for you to ponder is, what do you believe? Is God real? Where is your faith? Right? So we are a people who have confidence that there is a God, and we proclaim it. And it is not illogical to believe that there's an eternal God. So we're going to sing this song, and if you're here and you have something that you'd like us to help you with, pray for you about, if there's one that would want to give their life to Christ and have their sins washed away, we can do that today. If you have a need, please come while we stand.
There is beyond the earth.